Hello dear viewers, and welcome back to the Musings of Maverick channel. I'm your host Maverick, and today we're going to be watching Carole and Tuesday episode 14. Before we begin, however, there is a certain piece of news that I'd like to bring up. As many of you who follow the anime industry probably already know, earlier today, July 18th, 2019, a terrible tragedy has befallen Kyoto Animation, one of the top animation studios of Japan. They were the target of a deliberate arson attack. Now, the specifics of this aren't completely known yet. The relevant agencies are still doing their investigations. But however, what has been confirmed so far is that over 30 have lost their lives. Over 30 people have lost their lives in this tragedy, and there's potentially 10, maybe even more, who are in serious condition as well. Now, a tragedy is a tragedy, however you put it, but this one really hits home to me because Kyoto Animation have done a lot of works that I personally love as well. You know, some of their works have huge impacts on the entire animation industry as a whole. You know, stuff like Haruhi, the Haruhi series, the K-On! Series, and indeed there are a lot of their works that are still on my plan to watch list as well, such as Violet Evergarden, Koi no Katachi, and various others as well. So, honestly, just a very tragic situation. The Japanese animation industry has been dealt a huge blow with this. This is seriously like about a fourth of Kyoto Animation's actual employees. These are the artists, the directors, the people who are really hands-on and working on these animations that we know and love. So even though this seems a little bit out of place, it just didn't feel right for me if I didn't do anything at all. So I'd like to use this opportunity to invite all of you to join me in a moment of silence to honor those who have lost their lives this day, as well as to all the other families and loved ones. So hope all of you guys can join me. So thank you guys, and again, if there's any of you who would like to do some things to help with this situation, I know Sentai Filmworks has set up a GoFundMe page for donations that I presume will be used to be directly given to the family of those who are affected, and potentially to help Kyoto Animation as well, because it's still unclear how Kyoto Animation will continue on after this, especially when they lost so many of their talented people. But yeah, that's one way to support them. Yeah, and of course, some people on Reddit are also saying that they have a direct shop, so you can also buy some merchandise from there as well. So with that said though, we still do have an anime series that we have to watch. The show still must go on, as sad a tragedy as this is. So, anyways, let's move on, shall we? So, alright. In terms of Carole and Tuesday, last episode we, they've basically rejected going with the major labels, and they have decided to hit it up themselves. And so now they are out searching for a producer. Now, a producer is important because it gives the artist a sense of direction of how their sound should go, and also a lot of times it helps the artist in areas that they might be more weaker in. Like, for instance, in terms of Carole Tuesday, maybe they haven't received much formal musical education. They're really just doing what they like, and a sound producer can come in and also help them in terms of arrangements and whatnot, as well as themes and how they can continue to improve on their music. So for this episode, let's just see if the the producer that they found is actually any good. Alrighty, so I've skipped the opening and the intro, so let's just begin with the actual anime in 3, 2, 1, play. Yeah, this guy. You know, the translation there is a little bit weird because Tobe, Tobe in Japanese should be Tobe, not Toby. Really? So what now? Are you guys gonna... The kids are alright. Where have I... Oh, okay. Damn it, I can't remember which... what song is... Oh well. A Texan? Okay. Cannabis? Okay. Wow. Hmm. He has one. Yeah. The most polished turd. Probation officer? Okay, so he's a criminal? Hmm. I really do think that that dude might actually be Carol's dad or something. A ballad? It's gotta be a ballad, isn't it? Aaron. Okay. Aaron. There's no way this isn't a sort of, being IT as well. This has to be some kind of reference. The hell? Really? You guys, oh my god, this is like... You probably shouldn't have... Yeah, this has to be her real dad. And so this guy doesn't want to, because after hearing this, he doesn't want to reveal himself. So he's on probation, right? So... I guess I can kind of see where this is going. So I'm guessing because her dad had a criminal life or had some trouble with the law, so that's why he put Carole at the orphanage. Huh. In the intro of every episode, it seems that it's snowing, actually. Oh yeah, that... Oh my god, how can I forget? It's from The Who! Alright, I'm off my game today. Oh my god. Black Knight? There's such a big contrast between how they are and Carole Tuesday. Okay. No. We're getting the song now? Just a voice synthesizer? Hamilton. Alright. So they want to get with the extremist based. True. He's testing the sound acoustics. I mean, that should be fairly obvious. Oh, they don't use these kinds of old mics. It's old mics for them. Oh, damn. Yeah, Okay, so this guy definitely commands a lot of respect. Holy crap. Wow. Seriously? Using a live band plus? Okay. Sorry, I'll be muting this. I wonder who wrote the arrangement. Did Tobey do it, or did the musicians have free reign over what they wanted to do about this? Okay. Yep, that's his dad. That's her dad, all right. But it's good shit. $52 takes? Holy crap. And with a live band each time? That's definitely pretty metal. Poor dude. What? The days of an album of over? That is heresy. How can you tell a complete story without an album? I like the Alice in Wonderland outfit. Oh. Not really. He's gonna tell his backstory, right? But he's not gonna say he's her dad. Yep. Aww. This is a good episode. I'll see you guys in a second. Alrighty, so lots of interesting stuff in this one episode. We got basically a little tidbit of information on various different subjects and various different characters, right? So let's just go through them one by one. I guess first of all we can start with Carole, because that was literally the ending of this episode. So, well, honestly, not much to say there. I thought that it would be hinted more subtly, like maybe Carole would only figure out the fact after Dan already left, or was on a spaceship back to Earth or something like that. But I guess they chose to not hide it and just give a proper send-off, which is also okay. I do like this kind of. It at least has some sort of proper closure to this storyline, right? So, and it's definitely pretty emotional, pretty tear-jerking as well. I did kind of feel the emotions swelling up during that scene. It's an easily guessable story, I mean, but still, it's done well, and the emotional aspect is there in terms of the dialogue, in terms of the pacing, and in terms of the background music as well. So I say overall it was nicely done on that part. On Tuesday's side, it's really more about her mom, right? About Valerie. And I feel like, it's very interesting because this is obviously a modern work, and the director or the story writer here is definitely trying to reference modern politics. Especially, as we can see from this episode, it seems that Mars and Earth are two separate, governments, right? And apparently they don't think of each other as sort of like brothers, and they're all the same people, but now apparently you need to have trade agreements as well. The people on Mars are the Martians, people on Earth are the Earthlings and whatnot, and so they have this kind of back and forth relationship, right? It's not one unified body anymore. So that's what we can infer from this. And also, you have to think maybe that the fact that they're breaking off, trade deals and whatnot, this is either a reference to, to the U.S. or maybe to Britain as well. With the trade wars and Brexit, respectively, right? Maybe potentially this kind of reference. Although I did find it kind of funny when they mentioned that it's okay, just use it as a complaint slogan. You don't necessarily have to do it. And unfortunately, that is what politics is, right? Who can make the most promises, and really they aren't penalized when they don't follow through those promises. So, meh. I guess it's sort of like a meta discussion on the entire thing. Although I do kind of wonder how this eventually is going to go with all, the entire story, right? Like, because I in the back of my mind, I'm thinking of this very outlandish, very wacky sort of ending, or sort of development, if you will, where it's similar to Macross, right? And then they're going to use music in order to stop conflict, or something like a potential war breaking out between the people on Mars and the people on Earth, or whatnot. Because they keep on talking about this miracle, right? And how these two are literally going to change the world. We're hinted of that every single time with the introduction to the anime. So, it leaves the imagination to run wild on what can potentially happen. It's probably not going to be anything as epic as that, but definitely I feel like probably their music is going to sort of have some influence on the election and whatnot in a certain type of way. I definitely don't think it's just as simple as just Tuesday's family situation, right? I would put money on this two being somehow intertwined with each other, and music that Carole and Tuesday brings, the stuff that they do, actually impacts Martian politics in a way. What it is, I don't know yet, but that would be my guess for now. Angela also has, two kind of interesting storylines as well, not necessarily going anywhere, but since it's already mentioned, I guess we should talk a little bit about that. The Black Knight, aka White Knight stalker kind of dude on that's following Angela. Not really sure if that's going to develop into anything, but since they specifically mentioned, I guess maybe. And then also, of course, her entire situation with Tao, right? We know that Tao is someone who really wants to remove humans from his music. So but is he really that much of an asshole as to try and figure out how to completely synthesize Angela's voice, and so that in the end he doesn't need her anymore? I don't know. We could be going into the storyline where, you know, Tao eventually learns the value of having a human touch in the songs, if you will. Or maybe he's really not that much of an asshole as we perceive him to be, and he never really had this intention of completely ditching Angela, right? Possible. But anyways, that is kind of interesting in its own aspect as well. Although I do believe that the moral of the story will probably still end in for these songs to really incite emotions and whatnot, and it still needs to have a human touch to it. At least that's what I believe that this anime is ultimately going to go for. And I guess we should also talk about the music for this episode, right? Specifically the recording, because, you know, this is actually stuff that interests me. So, first of all, recording in that kind of situation, I guess it's possible. Really, the biggest fear to have recording in that kind of situation will probably be the outside noise, right? Like you're recording your important song or whatnot, and you're at a crucial stage, and then suddenly outside the door some sirens start to blare, or some kids start to run by and play and laugh and scream and shout and whatnot, and then it gets picked up by the mic, right? So really the only big problem of that would be the sound installation issues, right? There's a reason why people record within studios. Not only, well, there's various reasons, right? First of all, you're isolated from the outside noise, and then also, because you're in this kind of soundproof room, you can also play however the hell you want to play. And then finally, there's also the acoustics of the room as well. But apparently, for Toby, he's this legendary producer that can completely understand the acoustics of a room just by clapping his hands and listening to sound waves. So we'll give them a pass on that. So really, it just boils down to how certain are they that they won't be interfered by someone from the outside. And also, the entire setup, right? Like, using one Newman microphone to record everything, that is also a very old-school way of doing things, if you will. That's like, you know, 60s style stuff. I'm not saying that people nowadays don't do that, but it's generally, there's generally specialized mics for each different instrument. Like, what they're trying to do here is basically use one mic to capture all the instruments, right? And what this requires is, it requires a lot of setup, actually. You need to, you know, go back and forth. You need to find the optimal positioning for a certain instrument, especially for the drums. That's probably one of the, you know, most that's probably one of the most trickiest thing to figure out, like where exactly you're supposed to position the drums relative to the other instruments and whatnot. And then finally, just, you know, do it all together, right? So this is a very antique way of doing things, but I guess since this show is trying to, you know, go back to roots without any fancy stuff, using the very simplistic kind of setup, it does make sense thematically as well. And again, since this Toby guy is apparently legendary and old and whatnot, it also makes sense for him to use this kind of method to record them, right? And speaking of which, I was also quite surprised that they've actually found a live backing band, and this live backing band actually played the whole way through with them. I mean, in retrospect, I guess it's not that surprising. It's just that I wasn't expecting it, because generally only bands would do this, right? Bands that are together. But in this case, it's just Carole and Tuesday, a unit, and then the rest are basically backing music, right? So they could have entirely just recorded that, pre-recorded that, layered it, do some sound editing, and then use that as backtrack, and then start doing it again, instead of, you know, all of them playing together for 52 takes, right? That was also quite interesting as well, and not really sure why they had to do, like, I fine, I guess maybe they wanted to keep the authenticity of the song itself, but I can guarantee you that this song was probably also, you know, in the real world, was probably recorded in the same way that I'm saying as well, with the different instruments first coming together to become a backing track, recorded separately and then mixed together, and then maybe finally the vocals coming in as well, with the backing track already in place. So it's kind of fun, I guess, using this kind of old school method. I mean, I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I'm just saying that this is definitely something that's not exactly quite the norm anymore, at least as far as I understand anyways. So yeah. And I guess one final thing I want to mention is in regards to the album part, right? So I guess, I'm not really sure how big this is going to be, like how big of a plot point this is going to be, them recording an album instead of a single, as they are doing now. Are albums falling out of favor? Maybe not, even in this current day and age. I still feel like albums have, like, for me personally, albums definitely have their place in the music industry. In fact, I actually really hate the single style of selling music, right? Because, I don't know, to me, albums are the only way where you can unify all of your works thematically together in a certain way, and I really enjoy listening to this kind of experiences, right, where each and every track is ordered in a specific way, and then going through a specific journey of sound all the way to the ending, right? Now, of course, there's a lot of albums nowadays that are just a collection of basically the singles, right? Japan itself is probably one of the biggest offenders of this. They love their single sales, and then when they release an album, most of the time it's just basically like putting their best singles together and maybe having a few original songs to intersperse between the different tracks and whatnot. So in that case, I guess you could say, there's no specific reason for an album, but I like these kinds of albums where there's a theme carried throughout. Some of my favorite bands, music groups, if you will, would be Sound Horizon and Linked Horizon, right? The two music projects founded by Revo, the composer, songwriter, and singer. Maybe some of you guys know it from the Attack on Titan anime, Linked Horizon, but for specifically for Sound Horizon, they style their albums. Each album in itself is like one overall story with one overall theme, and so it tells a story throughout every single song, and then finally having an ending at the very end, right? So I love those kinds of works. So to me, albums are definitely necessary, and we definitely need to keep them instead of just relying on single songs. But anyways, that pretty much covers everything I want to talk about for this episode. And yeah, pretty nice one overall. I definitely like what I saw here. Not really sure how it's going to continue on. Maybe they are going to start recording an album, or maybe they're going to go head to head in terms of Angela's new song and Carole Tuesday's new song, and try to beat each other in sales. Oh, actually, it's possible that next episode we're going to see how Carole and Tuesday, how their camp is going to try and promote this new single, right? They've recorded it, now they need to press it, they need to make it available for people to buy and whatnot, they need to do marketing and advertising for it. Yeah, actually, I think that's probably what's going to happen next episode, actually. So, looking forward to that as well. So, until then, I'll see you guys next week. And this is Maverick signing off. Bye-bye.